everyone, we're going to solve several power functions based off changing from a radical to a rational. So the first thing we want to do, first of all, if n is even, there will be two solutions, and I'll go over that. And there's a couple that you need to use a calculator with. So I already did that part. You can just use any old calculator. So basically, if I rewrite this, this is x to the 1/5 equals 2. Because that's the first power. N is this top number. So that's odd. So we're going to have one solution. So basically what you're going to do, and I'm going to do it right here, is you take this and multiply it by the inverse of 1/5, which is 5. 1/5 times 5 is just 1, so you get x equals 2 to the 5th, and 2 to the 5th equals 32. So that's your answer. This one we're going to do the same thing. We're going to write this as x to the 2/3 equals 16. Since I'm solving for x, I'm going to multiply this by 3, or power it up by 3/2. So this equals 1, so you just get x to the first power. And this one is like saying square root of 16 cubed. So what I'm going to do is do the square root first. The square root of 16 is 4, so that's 4, and then cube it, and that equals 64. Okay, so I did the square root first, and then I cubed it. You don't want to cube 16 first, unless you have a calculator. Same thing with this one, x to the 3/4 equals 8. And so I'm going to write this as 4/3. There's only one solution because my n is 3. Now, whoops, it should be 4/3. Sorry about that. So this just equals 1. That's why we did that. This was the inverse of 3/4. So you get x equals, and I'm going to go ahead and write this as cube root of 8 to the 4th. So the cube root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Then you get 2 to the 4th, and so 2 to the 4th is 16. On this one you have x to the 1/3 equals 4. There's only one solution because my n is odd. So just power it by 3. That equals 1 here on the left side. You have 4 cubed, which equals 64. Next one is this one. We have x to the 2/3 equals 25. Now in this case, my n is even. That means we can have two solutions. So basically, we're going to power this by 3/2. And we're going to get, this is just x on this side, and you get the square root of 25 cubed. And so basically, if you take the square root of 25, you get plus 5. You also get negative 5. And then what we want to do is cube both of these. If you cube both of these, this would be 125, and this would be negative 125. All right. Next, we're going to do this one. This is x to the 1/2 equals 4. Since my n is odd, there's only one solution. Now square both sides, and you're going to get x equals 16. Okay. This one, my n is going to be even, so I'm going to have two solutions. And we're going to power it by its inverse. So this just equals 1, so you get x to the first power. We're going to write this as the 4th root of 16 to the 5th. The first thing I want to do is take the fourth root of 16. The fourth root of 16 is 2 and negative 2. So now we have to power it by 5. And that's going to be 32 and negative 32. The next one is x to the 1/3 equals 2. It is a odd n, so you just power this up by 3, so you can get a 1 there, so you get x equals 8. Over 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Alright, this one you can just tell by looking almost. If you know your numbers, you can tell by looking, this is going to be 3 and negative 3. But anyway, if we do it the right way, you would go to the 1/4 power, 1/4 power. This is, the n is even, if you write that as 4/1. So you get x equals 4th root of 81, which is 3 and negative 3. And this one you could almost do in your head as well. If you know you should know your 2's, the powers of 2's. Since it's odd, there's only one solution. So the answer x equals 2 here. I should write x equals here. If not, you can do this. Power it by its inverse. So this is the 5th root of 32. That means it takes 5 2's to make a 32 when you multiply. And the last set's the calculator, and I went ahead and did it here. But basically what you're going to do is power it to 1/6. Since this is even, there's 2 solutions. And you get x equals 10 to the 1/6, or the 6th root of 10. And since we have to round to the nearest 10th, this is what I get. So I round it up to 1.5. But since there's 2 solutions, it's going to be x equals 1.5 and x equals negative 1.5. Oops. Alright, in this one, I went ahead and used the calculator here. So basically, you just power it by its inverse. This is going to give you x equals negative 30 to the 1/5, which gives you negative 1.97, and if you round it to the nearest 10th, that would be negative 2.0. And that's all. Thank you. Have a nice day.